What if a wedding veil conceals a family's darkest secrets? In a suburb paradise, love of a mother fights against betrayal. Step into a story where trust balances on the edge of a knife. Join us at Revenza Tales, where each smile conceals a secret. Subscribe, like, and ring the bell to join our adventure. Leave your city below and tell us, have you ever felt a stranger in your own family? Step into Erin's world, where figures conceal the truth. The clicks of Erin Johnson's fingers precisely punching the calculator keys resonated within her home office. The rhythm of the clicks filled the air, a rhythmic patter over the whir of the air conditioner. She was a single parent, and she checked the clock, its hands advancing toward pickup time. She was fine-tuning a client's year-end financial report. Her forehead creased in concentration. She had to be at school to pick up her son Noah within 30 minutes, the clock ticking. "Mom, aren't you finished yet?" 10-year-old Noah leaned into the room, his bright brown hair disheveled. His large blue eyes, a copy of his father's, twinkled with questioning. Erin smiled and lifted her coffee mug, its heat a fleeting solace. "I'll be finished soon," she replied softly. "Did you do your homework?" Noah nodded and pulled out the paper in his hand, creased from frequent use. "I got all the math worked out," he announced. "But I need some history answered." Erin took pride in her boys' schoolwork, a silent happiness in the midst of her hardship. She herself had maintained their home and cared for Noah on her own, her toughness tempered in isolation. Since her father died of a heart attack 5 years before, her workload had been doubled. But she had never complained, her determination the silent pillar. "Wait just 10 more minutes," she urged, her eyes softening. "I'll get to you on history when I'm done." The telephone rang, and Erin let out a sigh, the sound slicing through her concentration. It was from her mother Vivian, the caller ID a familiar warning. "Listen, Erin, we must speak of tomorrow night's dinner party." Vivian's voice was always commanding. "Amanda is bringing her fiancé," she went on, her tone abrupt. "You will be attending, won't you?" Erin's face scrunched in response, her sister Amanda's name a reminder of past pain. Amanda had always been the spoiled child, lovely and outgoing, Vivian's golden girl. Erin, by comparison, was always advised that she was too utilitarian, too dull, a shadow cast away. "Of course I'll come, Mom," she said, trying to sound neutral. "I'll bring Noah too." Her mother let out a heavy sigh over the phone on the other end, her tone disapproving. "Well, I suppose that's okay," Vivian relented. "But just make sure he minds his manners. Don't let him spoil Amanda's special day." Erin swallowed her words, her throat constricted in frustration. Noah was always such a well-behaved child, his manners impeccable. If anything was wrong, it was with her mother and Amanda, their criticism an ongoing knife. "Don't worry," she assured her. "So what does Amanda's fiancé do?" "Michael Foster," Vivian announced, pride thrumming in her voice. "He's an investment banker with a very wealthy family." "He's ideal for Amanda," she said, voice ringing with triumph. "He's Harvard-educated, cultured, social." Erin rolled her eyes in her head, the bragging a refrain she knew well. Her mother's values had always been centered on social standing and looks, an insubstantial gauge. The following day, Erin and Noah showed up at Vivian's upscale suburban house, its front imposing. Erin took a deep breath, and he gave Noah's shoulder a hard squeeze, her hand shaking slightly. "It's okay, Mom," Noah reassured. "I know Grandma and Aunt Amanda don't like us very much." Erin's heart hurt at her son's sensitivity, his words a reflection of her own anxieties. Kids are more perceptive than grown-ups know, their instinct a soft-hewn truth. She just opened the door when she could already hear Amanda's shrill laugh coming from the living room. Amanda was dressed in a classy cocktail dress, with a glass of wine in her hand, smiling and talking with a man she did not know. "Erin, Noah, you finally arrived." Vivian welcomed them with a chilly smile, her lips drawn thin. "Amanda, Erin and Noah arrived," she called out, her voice tainted with a forced cheer. Amanda turned and smiled at her sister, but the smile did not make it to her eyes. "Erin, I'm so glad you're here," she said in a hollow tone. "This is my fiancé, Michael Foster." Michael rose to his feet and faced Erin, his large stature towering yet kind. He had dark brown hair and warm eyes, and something stirred the edge of Erin's mind. A face that she had seen previously, a passing recognition. "Hello, Erin," Michael murmured softly, his voice warm. "I've heard a great deal about you from Amanda." He held out his hand, and Aaron took it, his handshake soft, his skin warm. "Nice meeting you too," Aaron said, her tone guarded. "This is my son, Noah." Michael smiled at Noah and met the boy's gaze straight on, his eyes calm. "Hi, Noah," he said, his tone friendly. "Nice to meet you. Which grade are you in?" "Fifth grade," Noah said, a bit hesitantly, his hands wriggling. "Isn't that a great age?" Michael replied, his smile spreading. "When I was in fifth grade, I did a model of the solar system for the science fair." He spoke softly, and sounded accustomed to conversing with children, an unforced ease. Amanda cleared her throat reprovingly, her glass clicking against the table. "Michael, would you pour me some wine?" she said sharply. Aaron had a positive image of Michael, his mild nature contrasting with Amanda's sharpness. It was perplexing that he was engaged to a woman with such a narcissistic personality. Over dinner, Amanda and Vivian incessantly discussed wedding arrangements, their conversation running together. They went through the marvelous wedding gown, the upscale reception hall, the renowned catering firm. Aaron's views were never asked for, her presence a silent background. "Aaron, you don't have to worry about the dress," Amanda broke in, her voice cold. "Because you're not a bridesmaid." Aaron's head jerked up in shock, her fork hovering in mid-air. "I'm not a bridesmaid?" she repeated, her tone flat. "Sorry, but we haven't been particularly close in years, have we?" Amanda said, her tone dripping with pretend sadness. "Besides, you're probably busy being a single mother with work and whatnot." Vivian nodded, her lips pursed. "That's right, Aaron," she said, her voice dismissive. "We don't want to burden you." Aaron felt a pang in her chest, a familiar burn, but did not change her expression. She was accustomed to rejection from her family, their words a well-worn wound. Noah's hand clasped hers beneath the table, his small fingers a lifeline. Only Michael had an uncomfortable face, his brow furrowing. He cleared his throat and spoke softly. "But isn't family involvement significant? I believe Aaron and Noah should be included in this special day." Amanda whipped around to her fiancé, a look of surprise, her smile wavering. "Of course they're invited," she replied, her voice defensive. "It's just that the bridesmaids are all taken with my close friends." Aaron gave Michael a grateful smile, a silent thank you for consideration. At least he was a considerate man, an uncommon friend in this room. Over dinner, as Aaron worked on the cleanup, the clinking of dishes in the kitchen, Michael came over. "Need any help?" he asked, his voice quiet, his arrival surprising. "It's okay," Aaron replied, her hands full with a sponge. "I'm accustomed to it. Amanda and Mom need me to take on the practical role." Michael stood there quietly for a moment, his eyes scanning her face. "You're different from what Amanda said," he said softly, his voice introspective. "How am I different?" Aaron asked, stopping to meet his eyes. "Nothing," Michael smiled, a touch of warmth in his gaze. "I just hope we get more opportunities to speak with you and Noah." Once he had departed, Aaron was hit with an unusual sensation, a tug at her memory. Michael's face flashed through her mind, a curious puzzle she couldn't figure out. She had met him somewhere, she was certain of it, but she didn't know when or where. Driving home in the car, the night sky dark outside, Noah blurted out of nowhere, "Michael is such a nice guy. I wonder why he's marrying a woman like Aunt Amanda." Aaron couldn't help laughing, and the tension was broken. "Noah, you can't talk like that," she remonstrated softly. But secretly, she shared the same query as her son, a doubt remaining. With every passing day and with every wedding plan moving ahead, Aaron grew more and more alienated from her family. Amanda and Vivian never told her about the wedding plans or asked for her advice. But secretly, she managed the backroom operations herself, dealing with invitations and correspondence with the venue. Her detail-oriented nature as an accountant served her well, a talent earned with years of meticulousness. "You're doing it again," Michael stated one afternoon, standing next to Aaron as she prepared. "Amanda doesn't have time to take care of these mundane things herself." "Don't bother," Aaron shrugged, her concentration on the task. "I'm handy at doing this sort of thing." Michael watched her for a bit, his face contemplative. "You're familiar somehow," he stated, his tone gentle. Aaron halted and gazed up at him, her interest piqued. "Me too," she confessed, her brow furrowing. "But I just can't put my finger on it." Just then, Noah rushed into the room, his steps light. "Mom, Michael, I did my homework," he exclaimed, his face radiating. Michael grinned at Noah, his eyes wrinkling. "What sort of homework was it?" he asked, leaning in. "A history assignment," Noah replied proudly. "I did the Roman Empire." "Really?" Michael sat down beside the boy, his interest sincere. "I love history too." Erin felt a good feeling spread in her chest as she observed the scene, a moment of harmony almost unheard of. Michael appeared to have a sincere interest in her son, a far cry from previous in-laws. Amanda's fiancé was obviously different from the men who never made the time to meet Noah. A week prior to the wedding, Michael placed a surprise call, his tone stern. "Erin, I need to discuss something with you," he said, his voice cautious. "I want you to be the maid of honor." Erin was caught off guard and lost her words. Her breath halted. "But Amanda didn't even make me a bridesmaid," she got out, her tone hesitant. "I asked her myself," Michael said firmly. "Family is important, especially on special occasions such as a wedding." There was resolve in his tone, a still strength. Amanda finally acquiesced, her hesitation evident, but the verdict was made. Erin felt torn, her sister's displeasure a shadow. She wasn't sure Amanda was actually pleased about it, but she was full of gratitude for Michael's kind gesture. The following day, Vivian phoned Erin in outrage, her voice a storm. "Amanda is crying," she snarled, her fury cutting. "Why did you go and ask Michael for something like that?" "I didn't say anything," Erin answered, maintaining her composure. "Michael himself offered it to me." "I can't believe this," Vivian bit out, her voice acidic. "You always make yourself the victim and attempt to destroy Amanda's life. This is her special day." Erin breathed deeply to remain calm, her hands unshaking. "I want Amanda to be happy," she said, her voice firm. "If she truly doesn't want me to be her maid of honor, I'll decline." "You can't decline now," Vivian sighed, her frustration audible. "Michael has already decided." "Just don't stand out too much," she added, her words a warning. "This is Amanda's day." On the wedding day, Erin arrived at the church early with Noah, the morning light soft. She also had on a plain sky blue dress, its plainness an intentional move. It could have been too dull for a maid of honor, but it was out of respect not to offend Amanda. "Mom, you are stunning," Noah grinned in the dressing room, his tone aglow with pride. The room hummed with activity, Amanda flanked by bridesmaids in beautiful gowns. She had on an extravagant wedding gown, its lace glistening in the light. As Erin walked in, her sister only looked at her and nodded coldly, her lips pursed. "Well, Erin," Vivian said with stiff lips, her voice full of judgment. "That dress is... well, it's just like you." The ceremony went on with dignity, the organ's music filling the church with a respectful silence. Erin stood at the back of Amanda, holding a smile as she looked at Michael's kindly face. He now and then looked at Erin, smiling reassuringly, his eyes warm and steady. The reception started with the arrival of the bride and groom, their steps choreographed. Toasts and dancing ensues, the room full of laughter and clinking glasses. Erin sat with Noah at a table, enjoying their meal in quiet, the chatter a background hum. It was time for speeches before long, the microphone crackling as it was handed from one pair of lips to the next. Amanda rose and grabbed the microphone, her body relaxed as she looked around the room. She shifted her attention to Erin, and abruptly her smile turned into a wicked grin. "Dear all, thanks for coming today," Amanda spoke sweetly, her voice insincere. "I'm glad to share this special occasion with friends and family." Following a while of discussing the happiness of being wedded, her words became natural. She then stabbed her finger in Erin's direction. "By the way, this is my sister Erin," she declared, her tone cutting. "A single mother who has lived without being loved by anyone." The audience grew embarrassed, an awkward wave shattering the quiet resolve. "Anyone want to take her in?" Amanda continued, her sneer mean. The color left Erin's face, her cheeks blanching under the glare. Noah's small fist closed around hers, his fingers shaking with rage. "Ha ha, just kidding," Amanda laughed, her voice disdainful. A few in the crowd laughed, but several squirmed uncomfortably in their seats, the forced smiles freezing on their lips. Vivian stepped forward with a mic, her shiny voice slicing into the tension. "Our oldest daughter is always so proper and dull," she sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. She's second-hand goods, but can still be used. Comes with a flawed son. This time, someone laughed from the back of the room, a harsh refrain. Erin's mouth opened but she remained seated, her body tensed, tears streaming in Noah's eyes. "Mom," he whispered, his lips shaking. Erin rose slowly and grasped her son's hand, her determination firm. "Let's go," she whispered, her voice calm in spite of the hurt. But at that point, in the corner of her eye, she noticed Michael slowly standing up. His face was flushed, obviously suppressing his rage, fists clenched at his sides. The venue was silent, everyone looking at the groom, the tension heavy in the air. Michael inhaled deeply, his chest expanding, and walked away from Amanda to retrieve the microphone. His gaze locked on Erin's, attempting to say something, a silent gesture of encouragement. The hall fell silent, with the stillness mounting on the walls. Michael's face revealed a sternness never witnessed, his jaws clenched. Grasping the mic, he started to speak deliberately, drawing out each word. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is a day that I make the most significant choice of my life," he pronounced. "However, it is not the decision you might think." The smile disappeared from Amanda's face, replaced by confusion, her eyes widening. Vivian stood frozen, her hands gripping the table edge. "First, let me say a word about that speech just now," Michael continued, his voice calm but suppressing anger. "Those words directed at Erin and Noah were cruel and thoughtless. I cannot share such values." Amanda began to open her mouth, but Michael softly held up his hand to silence her, his motion firm. "Actually, there's something I want everyone to know," he said, taking a deep breath. Erin looked up in shock, something moving within her, a haze in her memory slowly lifting. 10 years ago, when my sister Caroline was battling leukemia," Michael started, his voice shaking slightly. "Erin was volunteering at the hospital. I was 22 at the time, and I was rescued by the compassion and courage of Erin, who was 25. Hot tears pricked at Erin's eyes, the memories rushing back. "Caroline Foster," she breathed, the name a door opening on her past. Of course, she remembered her, a woman in her mid-20s diagnosed with leukemia. Erin herself had gone through the same illness as a youth, and after recovery, volunteered. It was a means of paying back, her mission renewed through survival. Through the final months of Caroline's life, Michael went on, his voice stabilizing. "Erin still stood by her and our family. Even after Caroline had died, Erin still looked after our family," he continued, his voice softened. "Following my sister's death, it took me a long time to get over the profound sadness," he struggled to say a word, choking momentarily. "Then 3 years ago, I met Amanda at a party," he continued, his voice stronger. "I was drawn to her vibrancy and friendliness. I didn't discover that Amanda was Erin's sister until we had begun dating." Michael's eyes flashed to Amanda, his face a mixture of sadness and disappointment. Everything that she told me about Erin, in retrospect now, was all tainted with prejudice. "But I did want to think that people could change." Amanda's face started to twist in a rage, her lips quivering. Vivian had slumped into a chair, hands over her face. "Following our engagement, I then realized Amanda's real character," Michael spoke softly on. "I was especially shocked the first time that I saw Noah. He was the little boy who would sometimes visit Caroline's hospital room." Erin looked at Noah, her then 5-year-old son who sometimes went with her volunteering. He would present the ailing individuals with handmade cards, lighting up the hospital rooms with his sincere smile. 10 years ago, Noah was only a 5-year-old kid, Michael stated, his voice mellowing. "But he had a gift for making my sister laugh." Noah's eyes grew wide, his breath caught. "I remember," he said, his voice tiny. "I drew a lady with a crayon." Michael smiled, his eyes shining. "Exactly, Noah," he said softly. "Caroline valued your artwork to the end." Michael's face hardened once more, his resolve firming. "While we were engaged, I questioned Amanda's and Vivian's cold and selfish natures, especially their behavior toward Erin and Noah. But I hoped they'd change. Today's speech has totally destroyed that hope." Michael slowly took off his wedding ring, gasps of shock erupting from the audience. "Today, I'm calling off this marriage," he declared softly but firmly, his voice unshakable. 10 years ago, Caroline's final words to me were that real family respects and looks up to one another. Amanda and Vivian, You are living contrary to that teaching." Amanda let out a sudden scream, her voice cutting through the silence. "This is a joke, right, Michael? What are you saying?" "This is no joke," Michael replied softly, his voice firm. "I'm doing the right thing now." He made his way over to Aaron and Noah, his pace measured. "I've been looking for a long time for the kind soul that I met at that hospital," he said. He held out his hand to Aaron, his fingers shaking slightly. "Let's leave together." Aaron brushed away the tears streaming down her face, her vision watery. She grasped Michael's shaking hand, her grip tight. Noah stood up as well and took Michael's other hand, his small fingers grasping. "Wait!" Vivian cried out, her voice desperate, standing up from her chair. "Do you know how much this wedding cost?" Michael turned back and said softly, "I'll pay for everything. Have the bills sent to my office." The three of them departed from the venue, and Michael respectfully bowed his head to the priest. "I apologize for the interruption," he murmured, his voice low. Outside in the brightness of the sunshine, Erin felt as if she could breathe freely for the first time. "I don't believe it," she spoke softly, her voice trembling. "You don't remember Caroline?" Michael asked softly, his eyes scanning hers. Erin closed her eyes, following her memories, the pictures vivid. "I couldn't forget her smile," she spoke, her voice shaking. "Especially during those last few weeks when the pain was severe. She was always positive." "Honestly, I didn't remember much about you back then," she admitted, her tone soft. "I was interacting with so many patients." "I always remembered you," Michael said quietly, his voice warm. "How much you devoted yourself to others. How strong and kind you were. After my sister passed away, I tried to find you," he continued, his gaze steady. "But I didn't have your contact details." Noah glanced up at the two of them, his interest aroused. "What are we going to do now?" he asked, his tone optimistic. Michael put his hand on the boy's shoulder, his grip comforting. "How about we just have a quiet dinner somewhere?" he proposed. "Let's discuss what happens next." Erin smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. In her heart, a long-closed door creaked slowly open. As Michael's Lexus drove away from the church lot, furious shouts could be heard behind. In the back of the rearview mirror was the sight of Amanda running, her wedding dress pulled up. Her makeup was smudged with crying and her once perfect hairdo was a mess. Vivian was also running after her daughter, panting, her cheeks red. "Michael, come back!" Amanda's cries could be heard from inside the car, her voice hoarse. Michael let out a deep sigh and glared at Erin, his face tired. "Are you all right?" he inquired softly. Erin gasped unsteadily as she glanced out of the window at the pandemonium in the wedding grounds. Guests were lost, murmuring to one another, some snapping pictures with their cell phones. Amanda's friends were hovering around Vivian, attempting to soothe her, their voices a whisper. "I don't know," Erin replied truthfully, her hands together. "But I want to go away from here with Noah." Noah sat in silence in the back seat, but his eyes were still rimmed with tears. "Mom, are you all right?" he asked softly, his worry evident. Erin looked back and smiled at her son, her eyes relaxing. "I'm fine, Noah," she said, her voice steady. "We're together." Michael parked the car at a small restaurant along the coast, the tires crunching on gravel. From the terrace seats, they could see the calm sea, the evening sky tinged with gold. The three sat in silence for a while, staring at their menus, the weight of emotions too vast. "I'm sorry," Michael broke the silence, his voice low, "for creating this situation." Erin shook her head, her determination strong. "You have nothing to apologize for," she replied, her voice appreciative. "Thank you instead for saving us." She looked at her son, her heart full of emotion. "Especially Noah." "I'm okay," Noah said, his words attempting to be brave, but his little hands were trembling in visibility. "I know what Grandma and Aunt Amanda told you isn't true." Michael laid a gentle hand on Noah's shoulder, his touch reassuring. "You're a special child, Noah," he told him, his voice warm. "Do you know how much Caroline anticipated your visits? She referred to you as her little sunshine." Noah's face lit up, his eyes wide with awe. "Really?" he asked, his voice filled with hope. "Yes, that's what she said." Erin smiled too, her heart filling with warmth at the recollection. "Caroline's face always lighted up when you visited." Their meal was brought in, the scent of broiled fish and warm bread hanging on the air. Erin dined with a security she had not known in years, the tension abating. Michael's unobtrusive presence was curiously reassuring, a solid anchor at her side. "Michael," Erin hesitated, her voice low. "Tell me, why did you become engaged to Amanda? Did you really love her?" Michael hesitated, his fingers tracing the rim of his water glass. "Honestly, I was drawn to her energy initially," he started, his voice reflective. "My world had fallen into darkness after Caroline's death. Amanda was energetic, and around her, everything else felt lighter." He went on, rotating his water glass slowly. "When I discovered she was your sister, I felt a kind of fate. Even though I didn't remember you, perhaps I felt something." Michael smiled wryly, his eyes far away. "But later, I discovered Amanda's radiance was only skin deep. She always craved attention and was hard-hearted, particularly with her family members." "But you still intended to marry her?" Erin inquired, curiosity piqued. Michael shrugged blushingly, his cheeks flushing a little. "I thought people could change," he confessed. "I kept trying to view her better side." He paused, his voice falling. "And to be sincere, it was tough to reverse a decision once made. The expectations were also high from others." Michael peered upwards and looked at Erin, his face serious. "But today, after seeing you and Noah treated the way you were, I couldn't turn a blind eye anymore. I had to act on my genuine feelings." His mobile phone rang, Amanda's name flashing on the screen, a harsh reminder. Michael let out a deep sigh and ignored the call, the ring-tone fading abruptly. But it began ringing again almost at once, the noise persistent. "Perhaps you ought to get it," Erin had said, her voice matter-of-fact. Michael unwillingly picked up the phone, Amanda's bellowing voice emanating from the receiver. Erin and Noah attempted to concentrate on their meal, the clatter of the cutlery a defense. But they could overhear Amanda's angry denunciations, her words cutting and blaming. Michael spoke in a level tone, though sometimes flashing an exhausted face. "Amanda, I have made up my mind," he finally declared resolutely. "Let's discuss through lawyers tomorrow. Don't call me again tonight." Upon hanging up the phone, a heavy silence weighed down, the atmosphere thick with unspoken thoughts. "Sorry," Michael apologized, his head hung low. Erin shook her head, her resolve unbroken. "Don't apologize," she retorted. "This situation is complicated, isn't it?" "Where are we now?" Noah suddenly interjected, his naively phrased question lifting the tension. The adult smiled, the burden lifting with his interest. "No," Michael thought over, his voice contemplative. "Perhaps at the start of a new journey." Michael took Erin and Noah home from dinner, the engine of the car a muted thrum. He stopped the car at the apartment door and accompanied Erin there. "Thanks for all today," Erin whispered, the moonlight tinting her hair silver. "Thanks too." Michael stared directly into her eyes, his eyes burning. "Can I see you tomorrow? The three of us?" Erin smiled, a smile spreading through her. "Yes, naturally." Mom asked Michael. Noah appeared at the doorway, his tone enthusiastic. "He said he'll tell me everything about Caroline." Michael grinned, his eyes wrinkling. "Course Noah," he vowed. Erin stood at the doorway, seeing Michael head back to his car, the evening cool. As he turned around and smiled at her, warmth filled her heart, quiet happiness. When she went into the apartment, there were a few furious messages from Vivian on the answering machine. "Erin, how could you do this to us?" Vivian's voice crackled. Furious. "Amanda is hurt. You brainwashed Michael, didn't you?" Erin took a deep breath and erased the messages, the red light going out. "Noah, take a bath," she said, her voice soft. "Don't you have school tomorrow, Mom?" Noah pulled Erin's arm, his face serious. "Do I like Michael?" Her son surprised her with his honest question, her breath catching up. "I don't know him well enough yet, Noah," she confessed, her voice gentle. "But he's a good man." "I like him," Noah declared firmly, his eyes shining. "He's Caroline's brother and he kept us safe. And he watched you smile." Erin smoothed his fingers over her son's head, his hair resting under her fingers. "You notice things," she replied, her voice soft. Later that evening, after Noah was in bed, Erin stood looking out the living room window. Confusion and hope mixed in her heart, the stars a silent witness. Her cell phone buzzed to ring with a message from Michael, the screen softly aglow. "Did you arrive home okay?" it said. "Is Noah all right?" Erin grinned as she responded, her fingers flying. "We're both good. Thank you." An instant reply. Words sharp. "I'm glad. Good night, Erin. How about some coffee after you take Noah to school tomorrow?" Erin sensed her heart beating faster, a quiver in her breast. "Yes, it would be nice," she typed, her lips curving. "Good night, Michael." She kept her phone to her chest and breathed out deeply, the burden lifting. The family feud, the wedding debacle, and this surprise reunion. Everything was moving so fast. But curiously, a calm she hadn't experienced in ages filled her soul. A year went by, autumn, with the lovely maple leaves turning colors. Erin putting up the sign for her new accounting practice. The letters, Johnson Financial Services, shone in the sunlight, emblem of her victory. The small enterprise she had begun with Michael's support and encouragement had developed a local clientele in a matter of months. "Mom, come on," Noah yelled out enthusiastically, his voice being heard from the porch. Now 11, he was taller and had a self-assured look. Being picked as the soccer team captain, he was now well-liked at school, his grin contagious. "I'm coming," Erin smiled at him, the changes in life evident in her posture. Her shoulder-length hair had regained a healthy shine, and there was a light of confidence in her eyes. "I'll drive him," Michael poked his head out from the entrance of their new home, his voice warm. Since last Christmas, the three had been living together, their bond deepening day by day. They weren't married yet, but they loved each other more with every dawn. "But don't you have a critical meeting today?" Erin asked anxiously, her forehead creasing. Michael shrugged, the smile natural. "Being 30 minutes late won't be the end of the world," he replied. "It's Noah's critical day." They drove past a tiny cemetery near the heart of the city, the air sharp with fall. After arranging new flowers on Caroline's grave, the three set their hands together in silence. "I fulfilled my vow, sis," Michael whispered gently, his voice trembling. Erin held his hand, her pressure strong, and Noah laid down a little stone on the tombstone. It was a private tradition between Caroline and Noah, an unspoken bond. "I still sense she's watching over us," Noah spoke softly, his gaze at the stone. Erin rested against Michael, her head on his shoulder, the moment sweet. "Thank you, Caroline," she prayed in her heart, the prayer unuttered. A few miles from there, Amanda was folding her things from her high-rise apartment, the quiet oppressive. Since the wedding fiasco, she had slowly been pushed away from society, her world constricting. Her old friends had wandered off, particularly after Vivian attempted to sue. Even when Michael had covered all the wedding bills, she lost her last patrons. Amanda was getting ready to relocate to a one-room apartment, her extravagant lifestyle no longer an option. She was forced to live on her own earnings for the first time, a hard pill to swallow. The same happened with Vivian, her friends shunning her, her existence filled with vanity now empty. Sometimes she called Erin, but always got a chilly response, the line dead. She was only now realizing her actions had caused an irreparable division. Erin, Michael, and Noah were sitting in front of the fireplace, its heat radiating, on Christmas Eve evening. Noah slept, dreaming of waiting for gifts, his face serene. Michael quietly pulled out a small box from his pocket, his movement covert. "Actually, I have something I need to give you," he said softly. Erin gazed at the box in shock, her breath suspended. When she opened it, a lovely emerald ring lay there, its facets refracting the firelight. "This is," she said, her voice shaking. "It was Caroline's," Michael replied softly, his eyes gentle. "She said when you find someone really special, give this to her." Tears flooded Erin's eyes, her eyes blurring. "Really?" she breathed, her voice cracking. "You and Noah have illuminated my life." Michael grasped her hand, his fingers not trembling. "Will you marry me? Let's be a real family." "A real family is not only held together by blood, but by heart," Erin smiled, repeating Caroline's words. "Yes," she replied, her voice clear. "We're already a family, aren't we?" Outside my window, snow had softly started falling, like heralding a new year, a new beginning. In Revenza tales, love conquers betrayal, affirming family is not created in cruelty, but kindness. This tale, spun from threads of life, reminds us that authentic bonds mends the deepest hurt. Was Michael's bravery inspiring you to pursue your own truth? Comment below. Where has this story touched your heart? Like, subscribe, and support with super thanks to keep these tales alive. Visit more journeys in the links, and let your heart be at peace in every step.